Here is a quote from Nikola Tesla. If you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have the key to the universe. Although Tesla's fascination with these numbers remains a mystery, let's explore how the 3, 6, and 9 are connected to the Bible. In addition, let's uncover how this mathematical concept is connected with prophetic events that may unfold this year. Let's begin by connecting the 3, 6, and 9 to Jesus. Jesus was crucified in the third hour. There was darkness over the land between the 6th and ninth hour, and Jesus said, "It is finished," in the ninth hour. To further connect Jesus to the 3, 6, and 9 concept, let's look at something called triangle numbers. Triangle numbers are a series of numbers where each number is the sum of all of the numbers from 1 up to that number. It sounds complicated, but let's look at some examples. The first triangle number contains 1 dot. To get the second triangle number, I need to add an additional row, so I need 1 plus 2 dots for a total of 3 dots. The third triangle number contains 3 rows. In other words, I need 1 plus 2 plus 3 dots for a total of 6 dots. Here's a list of the first 9 triangle numbers. So let's now use the concept of triangle numbers to further connect the 3, 6, and 9 to Jesus. Matthew 12, verse 40 says, "For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." So here we have the third, the sixth, and the ninth triangle numbers. If we add up the total value of these 3 numbers, we get 6 plus 21 plus 45, which equals 72, which is equivalent to 3 days and 3 nights, or 72 hours that Jesus spent in the heart of the earth. So now that we have connected the 3, 6, and 9 to Jesus, let's take a closer look at Tesla's 3, 6, and 9 math concept. We will start the math with the number 1 and double that value, or apply a double portion. There's actually a lot of doubling in the Bible. For example, Noah took 2 of each kind on the ark. So we'll keep using this doubling concept. We'll list the numbers in the right-hand column and then determine a pattern. So we'll start with the number 1. We double that, we get 2. Let's add 2 to the right-hand column. Now let's take 2, double that, we get 4. 4 doubled is 8. 8 doubled is 16. Now I have a double-digit number. I want to keep these as single digits, so let's separate the 1 and 6, add those together, and we get 7. Now 16 doubled is 32. Separate the 3 and 2, add those together, and we get 5. Now 32 doubled equals 64. 64 simplifies back down to 1, so now we're at the start again. 1 plus 1 is 2, and so on. So we get this pattern that repeats 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. So now let's go ahead and connect our set of numbers to this graph. We can say the 1 is connected to the 2, and then 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 7, and 7 to 5. And since the pattern repeats, let's go ahead and connect the 5 back to the 1, and you'll notice this makes an infinity sign. So what about the 3, 6, and 9? Since we haven't seen the number 3 yet, let's go ahead and start with the 3, double that, and we get 6. Now 6 doubled is 12. Separate the 1 and 2, and we get 3. 12 doubled is 24. 2 plus 4 is 6. So it looks like we have this repeating pattern between the 3 and 6. So now we can say the 3 and 6 are connected. But what about the 9? So let's take the number 9, double that, we get 18, which is 1 plus 8, which equals 9. So we're at the start again. 9 plus 9 equals 18, and so on. So we can say the 9 repeats. In addition, the 3, 6, and 9 are connected. For example, 3 plus 6 equals 9, and 9 minus 3 equals 6. So let's go ahead and connect the 3, 6, and 9. Also note that the 3, 6, and 9 are separate from the 5, 7, 8, 4, 2, 1. In addition, I want us to connect the 3, 6, and 9 to the complex unity, or the Trinity. So in the video, you'll see these numbers like 12 and 21, 72 or 27. These are called reflective numbers, and they have connections. So what is the 124875 connection? Earlier, I had said 578421. And the reason why I said it that way is because when I see this set of numbers, I see the number 5784. So we can make the connection that the number 5784 is connected to the Hebrew year that we are currently in. A lot of people now have said that the year 5784 is connected to the year of the door. They make that connection by taking the year 5784 and applying it to the Hebrew alphabet. Now, the alphabet contains letters that represent sounds, have gematria value, and symbolic meaning. For example, the aleph is the first letter, has a gematria value of number 1, and has a symbolic meaning of an ox. The number 4, the dalet, represents a door, more specifically, an open door. So now that we have connected the year 5784 to the year of the door, let's take a closer look at the doorpost. So here is a mezuzah. A mezuzah is an object that the Jewish people place on their doorpost, and they contain verses from Deuteronomy, and they are often symbolic of the Passover. One thing I want to point out is most of these, if not all of these, have this Hebrew letter on them. So let's take a closer look at that letter. Remember that the number 5784 is connected to the year of the door, so that leaves the number 21. Notice that the 21 is in red. And if we look at the Hebrew alphabet at the 21st letter, we see the letter Shin. This is the same letter that we saw in the mezuzah. Now we know that the letter Shin is connected to the 5784, but is it connected to the 3, 6, and 9? Remember, the 3, 6, and 9 are separate from the 578421. Since the letter Shin is the 21st letter, we can say 2 plus 1 equals 3. In addition, the letter Shin has a gematria value of 300. So we can say 3 plus 0 equals 3, and 3 plus 3 equals 6. I'm trying to get the 3, 6, 9 connection, but it seems forced. But then I do some research, and I determined that you can spell the letter Shin by saying Shin Yod Nun, just like we spell out the letter W, D-O-U, B-L-E, Y-O-U. So if the letter Shin spelled out is Shin Yod Nun, and I take the gematria value of those and add that up, then I get 360. Well, 3 plus 6 equals 9, so there is my 3, 6, 9 connection. So as a bonus connection, the number 300 is the 24th triangle number, so we can make the connection to the year 2024, or 5784. So what does the letter Shin mean? The letter Shin means fire or tooth. So what does fire and teeth do? They break things down. They can cause transformation or change. The letter Shin can also mean return. Sometimes if you want to understand a Hebrew letter, you have to see how the letter is used in a word. Here is a list of words that begin with the letter Shin. Here's an additional connection to the letter Shin. Here I have the days of the week listed out, and in the right-hand column, I have the days listed out in Hebrew. I also highlighted the letter Shin in red. Notice that there is no letter Shin on Wednesday. This is a possible connection to Jesus being crucified on Wednesday. Now to further understand the letter Shin, let's see how the letter Shin is connected to various parts of the Bible. Let's start with the Samson connection. So Samson was the 12th or last judge. Remember, we talked about reflective numbers. Number 12 and 21 are connected. Also note that the letter Shin is connected to judgment. For example, Samson caught 300 foxes. The letter Shin has a value of 300, and he tied their tails together in pairs. That's like the math that we done earlier, doubling. And then he set torches of fire between them. The letter Shin has a symbolic meaning of fire. Here are a few more examples of the letter Shin in Samson. I also want to point out that Samson has 2 letter Shins in his name. And if you look closer at the word Samson in Hebrew, you can actually see the word sun, which is spelled Shin Mem Shin. So here I have 2 words in Hebrew, sun and water. And when I think of these 2 words, I think of God's judgments. For example, with the word water, I think of Noah's flood. And with the word sun, I think of God's upcoming judgment of fire. Maybe there is a connection with the upcoming judgment of fire and the sun. When I add up the gematria value of each of these letters, I get 730, which is 73 times 10. Now the numbers 73 and 37 have special symbolic meaning in the Bible. For example, Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." If you add up the total gematria value of that verse, you get 2,701, which is 37 times 73. Now, our number was 21, or the reflective number was 12. Here's a table that shows the connection between the numbers 21 and 12 with the numbers 37 and 73. In addition, the number 37 is the 12th prime number, while 73 is the 21st prime number. Also note that the number 2701 is also a triangle number. Earlier, we had made a connection with the 3, 6, and 9 to Jesus. Let's make some further connections to the Messiah. So here I have the Hebrew alphabet arranged in 3 ages, or 3 weeks of 7. So if we say 7 plus 7 plus 7, that equals 21. The letter Tav is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. We're going to set that one aside for now. That one means impression or mark. Now if we look at the last set of 7, we can see the letter Shin. Now the letter before the letter Shin is the letter Resh, which can mean the servant king. Jesus came as a servant king. Now the letter Shin represents Jesus as the conquering king. Jesus is coming back as the conquering king. So let's make an additional connection with the number 21 in Jesus. Jesus said he is the way, the truth, and the life. So if you take the Hebrew word for truth, which is spelled Aleph, Mem, and Tav, and you add up the gematria value of that, you get 441, which we can say 4 plus 4 plus 1 equals 9. That's a 369 connection. But a better connection is 441 is the product of 21 squared, or 21 times 21. One thing I want to point out about the word truth. To spell the word truth, you need the first, middle, and last letter. If you want to know the truth, you have to see the whole picture. So far we have been looking at the gematria value of the Hebrew letters, but you can also look at the ordinate value. For example, the Aleph is the first letter, the Mem is the 13th letter, and the Tav is the 22nd letter. If I add up the ordinate value for the Hebrew word for truth, I get 36. 3 plus 6 equals 9, so I have my 369 connection. Let's now look at the word for falsehood. Notice that the word falsehood starts with the letter Shin. In addition, falsehood focuses on a small portion of the whole, and everything is in the wrong place. Remember, Jesus said, "Do not be deceived." Here I have the Hebrew words for Messiah and serpent. If you add up the gematria value for the Hebrew word Messiah, you get 358. Likewise, you get 358 for the Hebrew word serpent. Here are the differences between the 2 words. Let's now see if we can make a connection with the letter Shin and the 369 math concept with the last days. Genesis chapter 3 verse 6 describes the fall of man when they disobeyed God's commands. As a consequence to Genesis chapter 3 verse 6, we have Genesis chapter 6 verse 3, which says that God's spirit would not always strive with man, for he is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Now, if we apply the Jubilee principle to this, we can say 120 years times 50 years. That equals 6,000 years. Now remember that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. Now God worked for 6 days, and he rested on the seventh day. From Adam to Jesus is 4,000 years. From Jesus to now is 2,000 years. We are living in the last of the 6,000 years. Let's see if the letter Shin represents the last days. Remember, the letter Shin spelled out equals 360. So if I take 360 and I divide that by 3, I get 120. If I divide it by 6, I get 60, and by 9, I get 40. The letter Shin also has a gematria value of 300, so if I divide that by 3, I get 100. If I divide it by 6, I get 50, and by 9, I get 33.3. So let's see if these are connected. If I take the 120, which is how long God's Spirit would strive with man, and I multiply that by the 50, which is the Jubilee principle, I get 6,000, which is God's total timeline for man. And if I take the 60, and I multiply that by the 33.3, I get 2,000, which is Jesus till now. Then I take the 40, multiply that by 100, I get the time from Adam to Jesus, 4,000 years. Let's now see how the 3, 6, and 9 math concept is connected to Noah. So here's a list of items from the story of Noah that is connected to the 3, 6, and 9. For example, the ark had 3 floors, and Noah was 600 years old when the flood began. Here are a few more additional items. Here's an example of how Noah is connected to the number 21 in the number 5784. The phrase the ark appears 22 times in the Bible. 21 of those mentions refers to Noah. 1 mention refers to Moses. In addition, if you look at the 2024th word in the Bible, it is the ark, which is a connection with the year 2024 or 5784. Noah's name means rest, but if you spell it backwards, it means grace. Both the word grace and rest have a gematria value of 58. The reflective number of 58 is 85. This is a possible connection to grace in the year 5785. Let's now see if the letter Shin is connected to Noah. So the letter Shin is constructed of 3 vowels and 4 yods. If I add up the 3 vowels and 4 yods, I get 58. So this means that the letter Shin is also connected to grace. Remember, Jesus said it is finished in the 9th hour. On April the 8th of this year, we will have our 9th total solar eclipse in the US since it became a nation in 1776. Now remember the letter Tav that we set aside earlier. That letter had a gematria value of 400, and it is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Now the only reason that we can have a total solar eclipse at all is because the sun is approximately 400 times larger than the moon, but is also 400 times farther from the earth. In addition, if we take 1776 and we add up those single digits, we get 21. That's a connection to the 578421. Now if I take the reflective number of 578421, I get 124875. Now if I take the year 1776 and I add 248, I get the year 2024. Also, if I take the year 1948, which is the year that Israel became a nation, and I add 75 to that, it takes me to the year 2023. Now remember, the year 5784 falls on the years 2023 and 2024. Now if I separate the numbers 248, add those together, I get 14. 1 plus 4 equals 5. And I do the same for 75. 7 plus 5 equals 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3. When I put those numbers together, I get 153, which connects to the great catch in John chapter 21. Now, as a bonus connection, the number 153 is the 17th triangle number. The flood began on the 17th day of the second month. Nikola Tesla was fascinated with 3, 6, and 9. We connected the 3, 6, and 9 to the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. We also used Tesla's math principle to get 578421. We then used the number 578421 and connected that to this year. And then we connected that year to the mezuzah, or the Passover. We then looked at the Hebrew alphabet and made the connection to the letter Shin. Shin means fire or tooth. We then tied the number 21 to truth. Also, the letter Shin represents Jesus as the conquering king and is connected to Samson and Judgement. We then found that Noah and the letter Shin both point to grace, possibly grace in the year 5785 or 2025. I want to leave you with this verse from Romans chapter 10. If you will confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, then you will be saved.